I walked into the living room and found my worst fear staring back at me. My father-in-law, Stephen, and my daughter, Dorothy. Together. She's 20 years old. He's 63. The silence in that house was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. My hands were trembling. My heart was racing so fast I thought it might explode. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered into 1,000 pieces. How did a respected man, a grandfather figure we all trusted, cross a line that should never, ever be crossed? And why did no one believe us when we finally found the courage to speak? This is not just my story. This is Dorothy's story, and if you've ever trusted someone with your whole heart, only to have them destroy you from the inside, you need to hear what happened next. Because the people we're supposed to trust the most can sometimes hurt us the deepest. Before we go on, take a moment. Would you believe a story like this if it came from your own home, if your own family? Comment your first thought below, then keep watching. You need to hear what happened next. Stay till the end to hear the moment that split our family forever. The moment when silence finally broke, and the truth came screaming out. Let me take you back to when everything seemed perfect. When our family dinners were filled with laughter, when holidays felt magical, when trust wasn't just a word, it was the foundation of everything we built together. My name is Claire, and I'm a mother of 2. My daughter Dorothy is my oldest. She's 20 now, bright, hopeful, always had this beautiful light in her eyes. My son Marcus is 17, quieter, more reserved, but he's got a good heart. My husband James, he's a hard-working man, loyal to a fault, especially to his father. And then there's Stephen. Stephen is James's father, 63 years old, retired from a career in construction management. Everyone in our neighborhood knew him. He was that grandfather figure, you know? The one who'd help you fix your fence, who'd wave at you from his porch, who'd bring over fresh tomatoes from his garden every summer. Respected, trusted, safe. That's what we thought. That's what everyone thought. Dorothy was especially close to him growing up. He'd pick her up from school sometimes when James and I were both working. He'd take her to get ice cream, help her with her math homework, teach her how to fix things around the house. She looked up to him. We all did. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Our family had routines. Sunday dinners at our house. Stephen would come over. We'd cook together, laugh together. Birthdays, holidays, graduations. Stephen was always there, always present, always the pillar of strength we leaned on after my mother-in-law, Helen, passed away from cancer 6 years ago. That loss was hard on all of us, but especially on Stephen. He became quieter after she died, more withdrawn at first. But then he seemed to find his footing again. He threw himself into being there for us, for the kids, especially for Dorothy. I remember thinking how lucky we were. How many families have that kind of closeness? How many kids get to grow up with a grandfather who actually shows up, who actually cares? I thought family meant safety. I thought blood meant loyalty. I thought the people who loved us would never, ever hurt us. I was wrong. God, I was so wrong. But back then, in those early years, everything felt normal. Dorothy was thriving. She graduated high school with honors, got accepted into community college for nursing. She wanted to help people, that's what she always said. She had dreams, big, beautiful dreams, and we were all so proud of her. Marcus was doing well too. Sports, good grades, planning for his own future. James was working long hours, but he made time for us. We had movie nights, family game nights. Simple things, good things. Stephen was part of all of it, always smiling, always helpful, always watching. I didn't notice it then, the way his eyes would linger on Dorothy a little too long, the way he'd find excuses to be alone with her, the way she'd come home from his house and seem just a little off, a little quieter, a little more withdrawn. I told myself it was nothing. Teenage moodiness, college stress, growing pains. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself to trust. Trust. That word haunts me now. It started small. Little things I couldn't quite put my finger on. Dorothy had always been close to Stephen, but about a year and a half ago something shifted. She was visiting his house more often. She'd say she was helping him with yard work, or that he needed help organizing things in the garage. James thought it was sweet. "She's being a good granddaughter," he'd say. "Dad's lonely since Mom died. It's good she's spending time with him." And I wanted to believe that. I really did. But then I started noticing other things. Dorothy would come home from Stephen's house and go straight to her room. No hello, no conversation, just straight upstairs, and the door would close. Her appetite changed. She stopped joining us for dinner as often, said she'd already eaten at Stephen's. She started wearing baggier clothes, hoodies even in the summer. Her eyes, they used to be so bright, so full of life, but they started to dim. She looked tired all the time, exhausted, like she was carrying something heavy, something she couldn't put down. I tried talking to her. "Honey, are you okay? Is everything all right with school? With your friends?" She'd just nod, give me a weak smile, and say, "I'm fine, Mom, just tired." But she wasn't fine. I could feel it. A mother knows. Deep in her bones, a mother knows when something is wrong with her child. But I didn't push. I didn't want to be that overbearing mom, the one who doesn't give her daughter space to grow up. So I stepped back. I gave her room. And that was my first mistake. Have you ever had a quiet worry you didn't voice? A feeling in your gut that something was wrong, but you talked yourself out of it? Tell me below. Because I think we all have those moments. Those moments when our instincts are screaming at us, but we silence them because we don't want to believe the worst. We don't want to seem paranoid. We don't want to disturb the peace. But sometimes that peace is a lie. Sometimes that peace is covering up something dark, something terrible, something that's destroying someone we love. The visits to Stephen's house became more frequent, 2-3 times a week. Sometimes she'd be gone for hours. I'd call, she wouldn't answer. I'd text, she'd reply hours later with some excuse. "Sorry, Mom, phone was on silent." Lost track of time. Fell asleep on Grandpa's couch. James didn't see anything wrong with it. "She's an adult now, Claire, 20 years old. She can make her own decisions." But I couldn't shake the feeling, the unease, the fear that something I couldn't see was happening right under my nose. And then came the changes in her behavior toward Stephen. At family dinners, she'd barely look at him. She'd sit as far away from him as possible. If he tried to hug her, she'd stiffen, pull away quickly. I asked her about it once. "Did you and Grandpa have a fight or something?" She looked at me with these hollow eyes and said, "No, Mom, everything's fine." But her voice was flat, empty, like she was reading from a script, like she'd said those words so many times they'd lost all meaning. I thought I was just being paranoid. I thought maybe she was going through something personal, something she'd tell me when she was ready. I thought maybe I was projecting my own anxieties onto her. So I tried to ignore it. I tried to focus on the good things. Marcus was doing great. James was getting a promotion at work. We were planning a family vacation. Life was moving forward. But underneath it all, something was rotting. Something was poisoned. And I was about to discover just how deep that poison went. I thought I was just being paranoid, until the silence in that house told me otherwise. 6 months ago, things got worse. Dorothy started having panic attacks. I'd hear her in her room at night, breathing hard, crying. I'd knock on her door. "Baby, can I come in? Please talk to me." Sometimes she'd let me in. Sometimes she wouldn't. When she did, she'd just sit there, tears streaming down her face, unable to speak, unable to tell me what was wrong. I held her. I rocked her like I did when she was a little girl. But I couldn't fix it, because I didn't know what was broken. She started missing classes at college. Her grades were slipping. Her professors called, concerned. One of them, Professor Martinez, she pulled me aside after a parent meeting and said, "Mrs. Anderson, I'm worried about Dorothy. She seems distant, disconnected. Has something happened at home?" I told her everything was fine, but it wasn't. Nothing was fine. She stopped hanging out with her friends, girls she'd known since middle school, girls who loved her, who called and texted trying to reach her. She ignored them all. She withdrew into herself, into this shell I couldn't penetrate. And the more I tried to reach her, the more she pulled away. James was worried too, but he approached it differently. "Maybe she's depressed," he said. "Maybe she needs to see a therapist." We tried. We found a counselor, set up an appointment. Dorothy went once, came home, and refused to go back. "It didn't help," she said. "I don't want to talk about it." Talk about what? What was there to talk about? I was desperate for answers, desperate to understand what was happening to my daughter. And then there were the signs I missed. The warning signals that were right in front of me, but I couldn't see them, or maybe I didn't want to see them. Dorothy started flinching when anyone touched her, even me, even Marcus. A hand on her shoulder, a hug, any physical contact made her recoil. She was always on edge, always looking over her shoulder, always jumping at sudden noises. Her sleep was a mess. I'd hear her pacing in her room at 3 a.m. I'd find her in the kitchen at dawn, exhausted, staring blankly at nothing. She started avoiding Stephen completely. If he called, she wouldn't answer. If he came over for dinner, she'd suddenly have plans, somewhere else to be. James noticed. He confronted her about it. "Why are you being so rude to your grandfather? He loves you. He's always been there for you." She just looked at him, tears in her eyes, and said, "I'm not feeling well, Dad. I just need space." Space. That word again. But it wasn't space she needed. It was safety. Safety from the man we all trusted, the man who was supposed to protect her. I started asking more questions. "Where are you going? Who are you with? When will you be back?" She'd get defensive, angry. "Why are you interrogating me, Mom? I'm not a child." But she was my child. No matter how old she got, she'd always be my child. And something was hurting her. Something was destroying her from the inside out. And I couldn't figure out what it was. Stephen kept calling me, asking about Dorothy. "Is she okay? She's been so distant lately. I'm worried about her." His voice sounded concerned, grandfatherly, caring. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. Then one afternoon, about 3 months ago, I went to pick up some documents from Dorothy's room. She'd left for class, or at least that's what she told me. Her laptop was open on her desk, and I saw an email notification. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the subject line caught my eye. "Please help me." It was a draft email, never sent, addressed to a campus counselor. The first line read, "I don't know how to say this. I don't know if anyone will believe me, but I can't keep carrying this anymore." My heart stopped. I sat down, hands shaking, and kept reading. But that's all there was. Just that one line. The rest was blank, empty, like she'd started to reach out, to ask for help, but couldn't find the words, couldn't finish, couldn't send. I called her immediately. "Dorothy, I need you to come home, right now. We need to talk." She sounded panicked. "Mom, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" "Just come home, baby, please." She came home, saw me holding the laptop, and her face went pale. "You read it." It wasn't a question. "Dorothy, what's going on? Please, you have to tell me." She broke down. Full body sobs, the kind that come from somewhere deep, somewhere broken. But she didn't tell me. She couldn't. Not yet. "I can't, Mom. I can't talk about it. Please don't make me." And I didn't. I held her. I cried with her. But I didn't push, and that was my second mistake. Then one afternoon, I went to check on Dorothy. She'd said she was staying home to study, but the house was eerily quiet. Too quiet. I called her name. No answer. I went upstairs, her bedroom door was open, her room was empty. I called her phone. It rang from downstairs. She'd left it on the kitchen counter. My stomach dropped. Where was she? I called James. Do you know where Dorothy is? He didn't. I called Marcus. He hadn't seen her. And then it hit me. Stephen's house. She was at Stephen's house. But she'd been avoiding him for months. Why would she be there now? Unless she wasn't there by choice. I got in my car and drove to Stephen's house. 5 minutes away, but it felt like an eternity. I parked outside, saw Dorothy's car in the driveway. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I tried the door. It was unlocked. I walked in. The living room was empty. The kitchen was empty. And then I heard it. A sound. Faint. Coming from the back bedroom. I walked down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. The door was slightly open, and that's when I saw them, my daughter and my father-in-law. In a way no grandfather should ever be with his granddaughter. The world stopped. Time stopped. My breath stopped. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I could only stand there frozen, watching my entire world collapse. I don't remember screaming, but I must have, because they both turned and looked at me. Stephen's face went pale. Dorothy's face was filled with shame, with fear, with something I couldn't name. I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Just this sound, this guttural, primal sound that came from somewhere deep inside me. Somewhere broken, somewhere destroyed. I grabbed Dorothy's arm and pulled her out of that room, out of that house, away from him. She was shaking, trembling like a leaf. I put her in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove, away from him, away from that house, away from the nightmare I'd just witnessed. We ended up in an empty parking lot. I turned off the engine and just sat there, silent, both of us. The silence was suffocating, crushing. I wanted to ask her why, how, when, but the words wouldn't come, because I was afraid of the answers, afraid of what they would mean, afraid of what I'd have to face. Finally, Dorothy spoke. Her voice was small, broken, barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Mom, I'm so sorry. Sorry? Sorry for what? For being taken advantage of by a man who was supposed to protect her? For being manipulated by someone who had power over her? Baby, you have nothing to be sorry for. This is not your fault. Do you hear me? This is not your fault. But she just kept crying, kept saying she was sorry, over and over, like she'd been programmed to believe she was the one to blame. How long? I asked. My voice was hoarse, raw. How long has this been happening? She didn't answer. Just stared out the window, tears streaming down her face. Dorothy, please. I need to know. When did this start? She closed her eyes, took a shaky breath. 1.5 years ago, after Grandma died, he said he was lonely. He said he needed someone to talk to. He said I was the only one who understood him. 1.5 years, 18 months. All this time, while we were having family dinners, celebrating holidays, laughing together, this was happening. This betrayal, this violation, this... I couldn't even find a word for it. Did he force you? She shook her head. No, he didn't force me, but he manipulated me. He told me it was special, that what we had was special, that no one would understand, that I couldn't tell anyone, that it would destroy the family if anyone found out. He made me feel like it was my choice, but it wasn't. I know it wasn't, I couldn't see it until now. My heart broke, shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. This man I trusted, this man I welcomed into my home, this man who held my daughter as a baby, who watched her grow up, who was supposed to love her, protect her, keep her safe. He destroyed her. He stole her innocence, her trust, her sense of self. And he did it slowly, carefully, methodically, like a predator. Because that's what he was. A predator. I took Dorothy home, put her to bed. She fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the weight of carrying this secret for so long. I sat in the living room, staring at the wall, trying to process what I'd just learned, trying to figure out what to do next. And then James came home. He took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Claire, what happened? Are you okay?" I wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. I told him every word, every horrible, devastating detail. I watched his face change, watched him go through the same stages I'd gone through. Disbelief, shock, horror, rage. He stood up, pacing, running his hands through his hair. No, that's not possible. My father wouldn't. He couldn't. There has to be some mistake. But there was no mistake. I saw them, James, with my own eyes, and Dorothy confirmed it. It's been going on for over a year. He stopped pacing, looked at me with these wild, desperate eyes. "She's 20 years old, Claire. She's an adult. Maybe it was consensual." I felt something inside me snap. Consensual? Are you hearing yourself right now? He's her grandfather. He's 63 years old. He's had power over her since she was a child. He groomed her, James. He manipulated her. He made her believe this was normal, was special, was something she wanted. But it wasn't. It was abuse. Plain and simple. James sat down, put his head in his hands. "I can't believe this. I can't believe my own father would do something like this. There has to be an explanation. Maybe Dorothy's confused. Maybe she's going through something and—" "Don't." My voice was cold, sharp. "Don't you dare blame her. Don't you dare make excuses for him. I saw what I saw, and I believe our daughter. The question is, do you?" The silence that followed was deafening. James looked at me, torn between his loyalty to his father and his love for his daughter, and in that moment, I saw our marriage hanging by a thread. "I need to talk to him," James finally said. "I need to hear his side." His side? What side could there possibly be? But I nodded. "Fine, let's go." We drove to Stephen's house. The entire ride was silent, tense. When we pulled up, Stephen was sitting on his porch, like he'd been waiting for us, like he knew we'd come. We got out of the car and walked up to him. He looked at James, then at me. His face was calm, too calm. "I know why you're here," he said. James stepped forward. "Dad, I need you to tell me the truth. Did something happen between you and Dorothy?" Stephen didn't flinch, didn't deny it. He just sighed, like we were inconveniencing him. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded. "Explain to me what I saw. Explain to me why my daughter has been carrying this secret, this burden, for over a year. Explain to me why you, her grandfather, crossed a line that should never, ever be crossed." He looked at me with these cold, calculating eyes. "Dorothy's a grown woman. She made her own choices. I didn't force her to do anything. She came to me. She wanted comfort. She wanted attention, and I gave it to her. I felt sick, physically sick. She was vulnerable. She trusted you, and you took advantage of that trust." "I love her," he said. Like that made it okay, like love justified what he'd done. "This isn't love," James said, his voice breaking. "Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't hide in the shadows. Love doesn't destroy someone from the inside out. What you did to her, to our family, it's unforgivable." Stephen's calm facade cracked. "You're going to side with her? Your own father? After everything I've done for you? After all the years I've been there for this family?" James stood tall, looked his father in the eye. "You're not my father anymore. Not after this." But Stephen didn't stop. He kept talking, kept making excuses, kept trying to justify the unjustifiable. "Dorothy's confused. She doesn't know what she wants. She'll come around. She'll realize what we have is special." I couldn't listen anymore, couldn't stand there and hear him twist reality, twist truth, twist love into something so dark, so ugly. "Stay away from her," I said. "Stay away from my daughter. Stay away from my family. Or I swear to God I'll make sure everyone knows what you did." He laughed, actually laughed. "And who's going to believe you? I'm a respected man in this community. Dorothy's a troubled young woman. People will think she's making it up, seeking attention, trying to cause problems." His arrogance, his confidence, it made my blood boil. But deep down, I was afraid he was right, afraid that no one would believe us, afraid that speaking out would only make things worse. James grabbed my arm. "Let's go. He's not worth it." We left. But the damage was done. The truth was out. And there was no going back. If you were in my place, what would you do first? Speak up, stay silent, or walk away? Comment your honest answer below. Your words might help someone else think clearly. Because in moments like this, when everything you thought you knew is shattered, when the people you trusted become strangers, you need all the guidance you can get. That night, Dorothy and I sat together, just the two of us. I held her hand and asked her what she wanted to do. "We can report this," I said. "We can go to the police, tell them everything, make sure he faces consequences for what he did." She looked at me with these haunted eyes. "Will they believe me, Mom? I'm 20. I'm an adult. He didn't force me. People will say I wanted it. They'll say I'm lying, that I'm trying to ruin his reputation." I squeezed her hand. "I believe you, baby, and that's all that matters. But you're right. It's going to be hard. People might not understand, but we have to try. We have to make sure he can't do this to anyone else." She thought about it for a long time, and then she nodded. "Okay, let's do it." The next morning, we went to the police station. We sat in a cold, sterile room and told our story to a detective, Detective Martinez. She listened, took notes, asked questions. Some of them were hard, uncomfortable. "Did you ever explicitly say no? Did you ever tell him to stop?" Dorothy's hands were shaking. I didn't say no. But I didn't want it. I didn't know how to stop it. He made me feel like I couldn't say no. Like I owed him. Like I was special to him. Detective Martinez was kind, but firm. "I understand this is difficult, Dorothy. But because you're an adult, and because there's no evidence of physical force, this is going to be challenging to prosecute. We can investigate, we can talk to Stephen, but I need you to understand that cases like this, they're complicated." Complicated. That word felt like a slap in the face. This wasn't complicated. This was abuse. This was manipulation. This was a man in power taking advantage of someone who trusted him. But the law didn't see it that way. The law saw an adult woman who didn't say no, who didn't fight back, who didn't scream for help. We left the police station feeling defeated, broken, but we didn't stop. We talked to a lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, who specialized in family law and abuse cases. She listened to our story, read the police report, and sighed. "I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be an uphill battle. Stephen has no prior criminal record. You have no physical evidence, no texts, no recordings, no witnesses. It's your word against his. And juries are unpredictable. They might believe you, they might not." But Patricia didn't give up on us. She filed a civil suit. Sexual exploitation, emotional abuse, breach of trust. We documented everything. Every doctor's appointment where Dorothy talked about her anxiety, her depression, every missed class, every therapist session. We built a case, piece by piece, hoping it would be enough. Hoping someone would listen. Hoping someone would believe. Dorothy had to tell her story over and over. To lawyers, to investigators, to court-appointed psychologists. Each time she had to relive the trauma, the shame, the guilt. Each time she broke a little more. But she didn't stop. She kept going. because she knew if she didn't, he'd get away with it, and maybe he'd do it to someone else. The community reaction was mixed. Some people believed us. They reached out, offered support, shared their own stories of family betrayal, of secrets kept, of trust broken. But others didn't. They defended Stephen, called us liars, said Dorothy was trying to ruin a good man's reputation, said she was after money, after attention, after revenge. The rumors spread like wildfire. At the grocery store, at church, at Marcus's school. People whispered, people stared, people judged. James was torn. He believed Dorothy. I know he did. But he was also dealing with his own grief, his own betrayal. His father, the man he looked up to his whole life, was a monster. And he didn't know how to reconcile that. We went to therapy together, tried to work through the trauma, the anger, the pain. Some days were better than others. Some days, I thought we'd make it through. Other days, I wasn't so sure. It wasn't just about justice. It was about finally being believed. About Dorothy being able to look in the mirror and know she wasn't crazy, wasn't making it up, wasn't the one to blame. It was about reclaiming her voice, her power, her sense of self. 3 months into the investigation, we got a call from Detective Martinez. "We need to talk," she said. "I found something." My heart raced. What did she find? Evidence? Proof? We met her at the station, and she pulled out a file. An old file, from 12 years ago. There was a complaint filed against Stephen, she said, by a neighbor, a young woman named Rebecca Harris. She claimed Stephen made inappropriate advances toward her when she was 17. She was helping him with yard work, and he crossed a line. My blood ran cold. What happened with the complaint? Detective Martinez shook her head. Rebecca's family didn't want to pursue it. They were afraid of the scandal, afraid of what it would do to their reputation. And Stephen had a good lawyer who made the whole thing go away. It was buried. Forgotten. But not anymore. We tracked down Rebecca. She was 30 now, married, with kids of her own. When we told her about Dorothy, she broke down. "I knew it," she said. "I knew he'd do it again. I should have pushed harder. I should have made sure he faced consequences. But I was so scared, so ashamed. I just wanted it to go away." Rebecca agreed to testify, to share her story. And suddenly we had a pattern, proof that this wasn't just Dorothy being confused or making things up. This was a predator, a man who targeted young women, who used his position of trust to manipulate, to control, to abuse. But here's the twist that shattered me. During one of our therapy sessions, Dorothy revealed something she hadn't told anyone, not even me. "Mom, there's something else," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I think Dad knew." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, Dad knew?" She took a deep breath, tears streaming down her face. "About 6 months ago, before you found out, I tried to tell him. I couldn't say it directly, but I tried. I told him Grandpa was making me uncomfortable, that I didn't want to visit him anymore, and Dad, he brushed it off. He said I was being dramatic, that Grandpa was just lonely. He told me I was overthinking things." James knew, or at least he suspected, and he did nothing. When I confronted James about it, he broke down. "I didn't know, Claire. I swear, I didn't know. She didn't tell me exactly what was happening. She was vague, and I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think my father was capable of something like that. So I ignored it. I told myself she was just going through a phase." His guilt was overwhelming, and so was my anger. My daughter had reached out, had tried to ask for help, and her own father dismissed her. Not because he didn't love her, but because he couldn't face the truth. Because facing the truth meant accepting that his father was a monster. And that was too painful, too devastating to bear. We realized this was never one mistake. It was a pattern, a cycle, a history of abuse that had been covered up, ignored, swept under the rug. And we were just the latest victims in a long line of people Stephen had hurt. But we were also the ones who were going to make sure it stopped, that he never hurt anyone again. The court case took 8 months. 8 long, exhausting, painful months. Stephen hired a top lawyer who tried every tactic in the book to discredit Dorothy. They painted her as an unstable young woman seeking attention. They brought up her panic attacks, her missed classes, her therapy sessions, and used them against her. Look at her mental state, they argued. She's not reliable. She's confused. She doesn't know what she's saying. But we had Rebecca's testimony. We had the pattern. And we had Dorothy's courage. She stood on that stand and told her story, every painful, humiliating detail. And she didn't back down. Stephen never showed remorse, not once. He maintained his innocence, claimed Dorothy and Rebecca were lying, that this was all a conspiracy to destroy him. His arrogance, his refusal to take responsibility, it was infuriating. But it also worked in our favor. The jury saw through him, saw the narcissism, the manipulation, the lack of empathy. In the end, Stephen was found guilty of sexual exploitation and emotional abuse. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. It was justice, even if it felt incomplete. The aftermath was complicated. Stephen's side of the family, his siblings, his friends, they cut us off. Said we were liars, that we ruined his life over nothing. Some of James's cousins stopped talking to us. Our church community was divided. Some supported us, others shunned us. We became pariahs in the place we'd called home for decades. But we also found new community. Other survivors reached out, shared their stories, offered support. We weren't alone.